Hello and welcome back to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel. Today, doing a bit of an instant match reaction, talking about some of the things that we learned from West Bromwich Albion's 2-0 defeat to Swansea City at the Hawthorns. Unfortunately, I wasn't there at the game today. As you know, I'm normally at all the home games, but unfortunately wasn't at this one today. So thought I'd just give you my sort of instant match thoughts and hopefully give you a little bit of an insight into the way I viewed that game and how I saw it. So yeah, if you're new around here, be sure to subscribe to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel for more content like this. Plenty more of this coming your way, and hopefully a podcast episode coming out tomorrow or Wednesday, depending on how quickly I can get that to you. So hopefully a podcast episode coming as well. So yeah, make sure you subscribe, comment your thoughts on the game below. Yeah, it wasn't a pretty sight for any Albion fans at all. But yeah, let's get into the nuts and bolts of West Bromwich Albion 0, Swansea City 2. You're watching the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel. For match previews, match day vlogs, match reactions and more, make sure to subscribe to the Baggies Podcast YouTube channel. So let's crack on and dissect what was another dreadful evening for Albion under Steve Bruce. Still winless in his start to his tenure as Albion boss. Yeah, of course, I'm sure we'll get the Newcastle fans commenting on it saying, "We told you so, we told you so." But, you know, at the end of the day, there were some things that Bruce could have done better today, but certainly there were plenty of things that the Albion players, if that's what you want to call them, on the pitch could have done a lot better as well. So we'll start by dissecting what sort of went wrong in the fixture, and I think the midfield has to be a massive talking point at the moment. I think, you know, the way that that's been constructed and, you know, just the way that it's completely been bypassed in that game out of possession by two players. You know, I know that during, you know, Ismail's reign, we were saying, you know, potentially that he should mix things up and go for a 3 in midfield rather than a 2, because obviously we're getting outrun there. We're getting outrun now. You know, when teams, obviously that was when teams were playing a 3 against our 2, but now we're playing a 3 against other teams 2. We're getting absolutely outplayed in there. So yeah, obviously he started with Malumbi, Reach, and Mowatt in there. Mowatt may as well. I'm confused as to see whether he began the second half, because I don't think I remember seeing him you know, really influence the game at all. And the same can be said for Reach. I think Malumbi had a go, put himself about a bit, but at the end of the day, they're not, you know, they're not good enough. I don't think, you know, the quality wise, they're just not there. That, you know, the passes are just, you know, passing between each other is just really, really laboured, and it's clearly not their natural game. You know, obviously Adam Reach was signed as a left wing back to come in and fill in a different position, and I thought he did quite well in that position, but all of a sudden he's down in that midfield zone and he's expected to sort of string passes together, and I'm not really sure where this sort of logic has come from Bruce to stick him in there. I don't think he's the person that I would have stuck in there at all, but yeah, obviously we'll see where that comes from. But obviously, you know, the sideway, the sort of lack of forward gusto, really, I think is what I need to say about the midfield and attack. You know, it's worrying they were, you know, really bypassed by that midfield 2 of Swansea's, and you know, that's quite concerning. And I'm glad that he didn't persist with it. Obviously brought Castro on late on. I say late on, you know, midway through the second half, and I think that was a nice welcome change. But at the end of the day, you know, there's quite a few. He's quite an inexperienced lad, Kevin Castro, although he's somebody I'm very keen to see more of. So yeah, disappointing to maybe see Castro only given that amount of time, really. Maybe I'd like to see him come on a little bit earlier, maybe. But you know, the biggest thing for me was that it was O'Shea at right back again. I think that was quite a frustrating thing for Albion fans to see. Of course, last week against Middlesbrough, we saw him continue to get doubled up on at the back stick, and you know, in the end, that led to 2 Middlesbrough goals, I think, really. So you know, obviously Swansea will have seen that. You know, of course, Swansea will have watched that and analysed that. Russell Martin's a very good manager. He'll know that. So, yeah, O'Shea was doubled up again at that back post. Lack of tracking back, I think, from Callum Robinson on that right-hand side. And I think, you know, this is a tactical tweak that Bruce, this is probably where my first bit of blame lies for Bruce, or second maybe. I think, you know, Middlesbrough, he could have done a lot more to change things tactically when Wildham acted to change the game. However, Dara O'Shea was completely overwhelmed at that back post again, and obviously he did see it eventually, but it could have certainly been too late by the time that he decided to see it and make the change, and almost did cause the goal for Swansea. I think it was Jamie Patterson who was looking at that back post. So yeah, that was really disappointed to see that it took him that long to ask and sort of probe that sort of question and try and change things around. But I was really disappointed with just the general effort from the players. I think there's so many there's so many players in there that I just think are really not doing it for me at the moment. I think there's for their goals, I think there were several players walking back from attacking positions. I think that's just disgraceful. I think that's really the most worrying thing. You've really got to put a shift in every single game with the amount of money that you're being paid, and at the moment these players aren't fit to wear the shirt. Unfortunately, it's a shame to say that. It's a shame to say that the players aren't putting it. Well, I'll say the players. I'll say some of the players. I think saying all of them is probably a bit harsh, but I think that ultimately the chants from the fans at the end of the game were fairly justified, and I think that we're all. I'm not particularly angry. I'm not particularly bitter about the way that they're performing. I'm just bored of it. I think I'm just a bit sick of just watching the same old thing being churned out, whilst they're obviously taking home a massive amount of money, and in comparison to Swansea, who worked really hard, and I'll say this, really did play Albion off the park in that second half. Yeah, really difficult to watch. Grady Diangana, I think, was probably a bit of a bright spark for me. I thought he looked a lot brighter, a lot more creative, a lot more brave. I think he showed flashes of his former self. Of course, he flicked the ball over Carl Norton in that first half and gave himself a bit of a run towards the byline. But maybe that did give Carl Norton a few flashbacks from the time that he sort of juggled that ball over Norton's head during the 1920 season. But ultimately, pretty disappointing, to be honest. That is so to see that Diangana he was doing some things right, but ultimately the team did not help him out today. I think he just lacked that half a yard of pace as well, Diangana. Truly take himself past his man and switch the ball round and try and just beat the man altogether. I think there's several times where he has to go round and sort of do the same skill again and try and beat the man 2 or 3 times, when actually realistically we've seen him do it with one move and just knocking the ball past. So yeah, I think ultimately really disappointed by our attacking output, but Diangana was a bit of a bright spark in the game. So yeah, I think for their goals, obviously we have to be disappointed. I think with the goalkeeping, unfortunately, Sam Johnson, I'm usually quite a big fan, but the first one going through his legs was pretty bad, and then the second one, I may not put as much blame on him for that one, maybe, but the first one going through his legs was pretty embarrassing from 10 yards out. It's hardly like he's gone in on goal. He's actually got players between him and the goal, and he's still gone through his leg. I think that was disappointing. Second goal, I think I can really put qualms with the defence for giving Cyrus Christie so much room to manoeuvre. Really, I think the way that he was allowed to take his touchdown, set himself and pick his spot in the goal, really, which even then wasn't the best strike, but you gave him time, and I think you should be seeing Albion players absolutely rushing out to that ball, putting their body on the line to block it, and you didn't. So I think that's where my qualm lies with that goal. Maybe not Johnston, that might be a bit harsh, but the first goal certainly does probably lie with Johnston. I think and not to mark Joel Piroe for that first goal, really, to let him peel off and come short on the cutback as well was particularly disappointing. How nobody decided to pick him up. He's their top scorer and has been really good this season. Scored against you once already this season. You should be pretty eagle-eyed as to where he is in the box, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. And the second goal, same again, really. Several players not tracking back, and I don't think there's any excuse for that whatsoever. The defence did concede a few clear-cut chances, but ultimately that back four was not helped by those in front of them, leaving them almost as soon as they went forward. As soon as Swansea went forward, it was almost, good luck, lads, good luck, defence, good luck, goalkeeper. It's on you now. It's your job to do the defensive work. I think there's no excuse for the lack of tracking back. And yeah, once again, I think that game highlights the serious need for a rebuild in the summer, and hopefully give it another go this season. Still under those parachute payments. You'll have obviously Daryl DK in the mix, hopefully, to bring you a bit more joy in that position. But if I'm honest, it isn't looking bright at all, and it's certainly not a group of players that, you know, as a manager you'd really want to come in and manage. So I think there is need for a rebuild, and you know, a new manager needs to probably come in the summer. Unfortunately for Steve Bruce, you know, the goal was really short term with him. So I do feel if he doesn't get us up this season, which obviously is probably dead and buried. Well, I think it is definitely dead and buried now. I think the premise of us finishing even the playoffs is gone. So I think that Steve Bruce probably best to call it time with him at the end of the season. He hasn't been able to get a tune out of these players, and I'd like to see somebody fresher come in for a rebuild. But that has to be under new players. I think that has to be under a fresh set of players. The owner needs to begin a rebuild, put his hand in his pocket, and start buying in some quality investments into the side. Once he buys some quality investments, he may see that the fortunes change and doesn't keep persisting with the same players under different managers. But ultimately, I'm really I'm disappointed. I'm just fairly level about this particular result. It's not really meaning much to me at the moment. I think I can say that for a lot of Albion fans. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go today. That's out of my control. But you know, I would have gone, of course, if I could have. But I think that I'm just really disappointed in the way that the club's being run and the fact that we're just being led down this path. And this season is now a write-off. You know, there's still 3 months left of the season, and I don't see anything changing. But yeah, that's all I've got to say on the matter. That is the end of this match reaction and things we learned from the game. Make sure you drop your comments down below and leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.